And Jesus answering and spake unto the lawyers and the Pharisees, saying, Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath day? And they held their peace, and he took him and healed him and let him go. And answered them, saying, Which of you shall not have a donkey or an oxen fall into a pit, and will not straightway pull him out on the Sabbath day? And they could not answer him again to these things. And friends, tonight, whether this man just came up to the home of the Pharisees, or if he was taken and planted there that they might find a fault to accuse Jesus, because we know in the Old Testament that it was unlawful to do any work on the Sabbath day. But we see that he was invited to this house to have something to eat. And when he got there, there was a man that was there that had the dropsy, and before he healed him, Jesus asked him the question there. He said, Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath day? And they held their peace. And they took him, and he took him and healed him and let him go. And then he asked him a question. Said, Now, if you had a donkey or an ox to fall in a pit, and will not straightway pull him out on the Sabbath day? And they could not answer him again to these things. And friends, Jesus, every opportunity that he had, that he would heal. It didn't matter if it was on the Sabbath day or what, but these men, the Pharisees and the lawyers or the scribes, were the ones that held the high position in the Jewish religion. And the Pharisees, this was the chief one of them, and the other one was a recorder. He wrote down all the things in the Old Testament. He was like a printing press. He would always write it down word for word. And they had watched him as he took and healed this man. But we skip over here to the next chapter, and this is still going on. So Jesus there, before we go to there, he answered him and said, And then which of you that would have this and it would do that, you would go ahead and pull him out? And they could not answer him again to these things. And he put forth a parable to those which were bidden, when he marked how they chose out of the chief room, saying unto them, When thou art bidden of any man to a wedding to sit not down in the highest room, lest a more honorable man than thou be bidden of him. And he that bade them, and him come and say to thee, Give this man place, thou being with shame to take the lowest room. But when thou art bidden, go and sit down in the lowest room, that when he that bade thee cometh, he may say unto thee, Friend, go up higher, then shalt thou have worship in the presence of them that sit at meat with thee. For whosoever shall exalt himself shall be abased, and he that humble himself shall be exalted. And he was telling them there, he looked over into that home, and here's what he saw. He saw these men jockeying for position to sit at the highest seat in that room of the chief Pharisee. And the chief place to sit was always at the top of the table, or at the right side of it, on the right side next to the host. And then it went like this, then one on the left and then one on the right, and that's how they were ranked. So he saw them doing this, and he took this with a parable and began to teach them there. He said, how would you feel now if somebody else come in that was a higher ranking than you and they told you, said the guest did, or the guy who's on the house said, you go back down to the next seat, what would that make you feel like? And he was trying to teach them something here about who they was and how they were missing the mark. You know, men today and women miss the mark on things, and especially when it comes to the Word of God. Amen. That Jesus was telling them here that he that will humble himself down before God will be exalted. And then we go over here to the next chapter, and we see in chapter 15, because this is still going on, Jesus leaves the Pharisees' house, and then he comes over here to chapter 15. Then drew near unto him all these publicans and sinners for to hear him, and the Pharisees and the scribes murmured, saying, this man receiveth sinners and eateth with them. And then there he was, you know, and thank God that when he left there, the Pharisees followed him, and he went to the worst part of town. He went to where the sinners